I'm going to show you the most effective ways to train your arms in a home gym, and all you're going to need are some dumbbells and an adjustable bench. Let's go. What's up guys, Kyle with HypertroFit.com, the best place to design your home gym and develop your training program. The good news is that training your arms in a home gym is very easy to do. They don't require a ton of equipment, and once you've got some dumbbells and an adjustable bench, you've opened up a ton of different, very effective exercise options. We are going to jump right into this, starting with biceps. The biceps are a bi-articulating muscle made up of two heads, the long head and the short head. This means that they cross two separate joints, in this case the shoulder and the elbow. Because of this, there are multiple positions that we gain benefit from when training in. The function of the biceps is to flex the elbow joint, it is to supinate the forearm, and it's also involved in flexing the shoulder. And to fully train a muscle, we want to challenge it in the mid-range, the most lengthened position, and the most shortened position, meaning that there are three positions that we will prioritize when training the biceps. We're going to start with the mid-range, which is going to cover the most basic bicep movements and arguably the most bang for your buck movements. The best exercise for this is the supinated dumbbell curl. It allows you to directly target the elbow flexion as well as supination because of the dumbbell. So we're emphasizing pulling that pinky in as we squeeze at the top. That's going to provide a ton of stimulus to both heads of the bicep. Conversely, if we want to target more of the brachialis while we're doing these, then that's where we would actually do hammer curls, because instead of that supinated position where the long and short head of the biceps are doing the most work, when we go more neutral, we take some of that emphasis off of those heads, and that means that the other elbow flexors, namely the brachialis, brachioradialis of the forearm, start to do more work in that position. The next position we're going to look at for the biceps is the fully lengthened position, and this is where most people leave a lot of growth on the table. So while just doing your standing or seated dumbbell curls is going to be great, you're not reaching the fully lengthened or the fully shortened portion of that range of motion, and that is all because of shoulder positioning. Like we said initially, the biceps cross two joints, meaning that it's not just enough to lengthen at the elbow joint, we also have to lengthen at the shoulder. When training in this position with dumbbells, we can reach that via incline dumbbell curls. By laying back on the bench, allowing gravity to pull your arms straight down to the floor, you are fully extending the bicep across both joints. And an upgrade to this movement, if you have some additional equipment, is the Bayesian curl, and I prefer to do these seated. This brings all of the benefit of that incline dumbbell curl combined with cables so that we no longer have any gaps in our strength curve due to gravity. And our third and final position for the biceps is the shortened or peak contraction position. This can be achieved via a preacher curl or a spider curl. Both of these are awesome options and come readily available with dumbbells and an adjustable bench. For the preacher curl option, we're going to be doing these one arm at a time using the incline bench as your preacher bench, except now you're standing at the top and using that back pad as the preacher bench. And to spice things up a little bit more, if you again have that functional trainer or lat pull down access, we can get even shorter with the bicep positioning by doing an overhead cable curl. This is a strange looking movement, and especially if you have a way to pin your arms up against something overhead while you're doing this, you'll feel a contraction like none other, simply because you're actually getting your biceps into their most shortened state. Now it's time to move on to the triceps. And the triceps are very similar in that they are a muscle group with three heads, so one more than the biceps, and that long head of the triceps is the only one that is biarticular, so it also crosses the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. The medial and the lateral heads of the triceps are strictly involved in elbow extension. So because we have another biarticular muscle here, we have the triceps involved in elbow extension. We have them also involved in shoulder extension. So we're really going to benefit from 3 positions once again. Starting in our mid-range position, we have heavy pressing. This is your close grip bench press, your neutral grip dumbbell bench, or dips. This is going to be one of the best ways to grow your triceps, even without doing direct isolation work. We're right in the sweet spot for where they can handle tons of weight, and this is why they progress very nicely with compound movements like the bench press. Next, we will cover the lengthened portion for the triceps. So you'll notice that this is going to be the opposite of the positioning for the biceps. To get in the most lengthened tricep position, we actually need to go back overhead because we are stretching the tricep across the shoulder joint, and then bending the arm stretches the rest of the heads of the tricep across the elbow joints. A very simple way to train this with dumbbells is simply the dumbbell overhead extension. You can do this with a single dumbbell, both hands on it, or you can do one hand at a time with a single dumbbell. Both are going to work very effectively. If you're having trouble doing 2 hands on the single dumbbell, then a single arm at a time is going to be significantly more comfortable for you. There's also a second option here if going overhead is simply not something that you can do, and that is a rolling dumbbell skull crusher, or a dumbbell rollback. It's got a few different names, but it's essentially a dumbbell skull crusher where we add some rotation at the bottom. So because your typical skull crusher is where you're just keeping your shoulders and elbows static and just extending at the arm, so we're getting that elbow extension, we add a roll into this, which takes some pressure off of the elbow joint because we're adding some extra motion there, but we also get the benefit of that extra shoulder extension, which again is a function of the long head of the tricep. So we're adding more utility to this movement while also easing off some of the stressors on the elbow joint itself. If you have access to cables, a cable overhead extension is one of my favorite ways to perform this, just because it's such a smooth motion and you get, again, constant tension out of the cables. And finally, the fully shortened position for the triceps is, again, opposite the biceps here. We need to go down and behind our body as we extend the elbow, because again, we are fully extending at the shoulder and fully extending at the elbow. So how do we get into this position with our arm behind us? We can do it with a bench dip. So you'll notice that as you fully extend in that bench dip position, we are getting both extensions of both joints. Now this is something that isn't the easiest on everybody. So if you're having trouble from shoulder positioning standpoint, then this might not be the best exercise for you. You're gonna be able to get plenty of benefit out of that dumbbell rolling skull crusher that you don't necessarily have to incorporate this, but it is a solid option. You can also do push downs, and if you have a simple band that you can hook up to your rack, band push downs are great. They're going to feel a little bit different than your cable push downs, but they still work incredibly well. You can go very high rep and get a lot of effectiveness out of that. And then of course, if you have the cable tower, you have the functional trainer, then cable push downs are phenomenal. It's one of my favorite ways to finish triceps or even warm them up, and it's just a great way to get that nice mind to muscle connection as you split the rope at the bottom. You could also count full dips in this category as well. We're not quite as far behind our body as we would be with the bench dip, but again, it's close enough and enough additional weight that we're throwing into that movement that it's also hitting here. You can also kind of get this out of a decline close grip bench because again, we're getting further and further down into shoulder extension. So as long as you're starting to use bits and pieces of those movements, you're going to get the full effectiveness out of training your triceps. And that is how you train your arms in a home gym. I hope you guys found this useful. I'd love to know what your favorite exercises are for bis, tris, forearms, anything in between. Let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch you again in the next one.